We had to extend our stay in the apartment, given it was going to take Fia at least a couple of days to get through all the surveillance footage. We even went back to Myth those 2 nights to scope the place out. A month ago, I would have relished the chance to have a night out with Reva, get drunk, dance, stumble home, and, well, you know the rest. But my heart wasn't really in it at the moment, and I couldn't get drunk. I was on high alert for anyone looking shifty. The barman had given us the ID on a couple of the regular girls that were still working the place. We kept an eye on them, without drawing attention. But there was only so far you could follow them before it got creepy, or they got wise. Both left and returned a handful of times through the night, with a handful of different people. I took shots of them with every punter as they walked out the door, from my optic lenses, but given that they all returned after each job, it was unlikely that one of those customers was our perp. So I stood, drank beers too slow to really enjoy them, and watched the world spin around me. My only consolation was that Reva wasn't getting drunk anytime soon either. Buried deep in her stomach was a piece of techno-organic engineering that negated toxins, primarily for stopping her from doping up before a fight, or being doped. It negated the effects of alcohol and most poisons to boot. So we were both sober. Misery loves company.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I have anything against them.
The drunk gnome beside me hiccuped.
I'm not racist.
He swayed and tipped his beer to drain the last drop from the glass. As he leant back on his stool, I could see the fall coming and put my hand behind his shoulder to steady him.
See?
He gestured to me wildly with the pint glass.
You're a good sort for a half-caste?
Reva eyed him from my other side. I could see her weighing up the satisfaction to repercussions of putting him to sleep the aggressive way.
I'm just saying that's all I'm saying. You got chips on your shoulders, like the world is against you or something.
He slurred and attempted to flag down the barman, who ignored him expertly.
I ain't done shit to that mongrel in accounting, and she treats me like a piece of coffee.
I looked him up and down, mostly down. Look, I tried my best calming tone. Have you thought about just ignoring her?
She's just jealous because I have a corner office.
Sure she is.
I'm gonna confront her and give her a mind in my peace.
His eyes lit from within, the telltale sign he was opening up menus on his HUD overlay.
I'm gonna give her a what for, that's just what I'm gonna do.
He began to slide sideways, and I eased his descent to the ground. The only reason he was still standing was his low center of gravity. He swayed unsteadily.
It's ringing,
he relayed to me in a mumble, not missing a chance to include me in his poor decisions. Why don't you go outside? She'll be able to hear your flawless logic better.
That's a good idea, that is.
He pushed his way through the crowded dance floor towards the door. Reva raised an eyebrow as she watched him. That poor woman. I found it hard to care. Behind every disgruntled office worker was some entitled wannabe dictator with the keys to the pencil drawer that they guarded like a chest of gold. Who knows, maybe she really is a bitch. Reva drained her glass. I was this close to spreading that face of his across the bar. She set the pint glass down. I could see her eyeing the spirits behind the bar. It was too late. Or early. I checked the time as I rubbed my eyes. Seriously? It's 4:30. I'm done. Reva sighed, clearly having wanted to sample one of the bottles but pushed away from the bar all the same. I polished off my beer and followed suit. We could have spent the night curled up in bed, Reva said, exhaustion edging her voice. We could have been home already in our own bed. I put my arm around her waist. As much as I liked Darcy and I did feel bad for those girls, I just kept coming back to what was my end game. I wanted to help, I just didn't feel up to the task. I had become complacent, reliant on my powers. I had taken them for granted. Even if Reva was right and I still had value as a hunter, I had no idea how I was going to tackle this asshole, whoever he was. If this Jack the Ripper wannabe was some kind of kitted out cyborg, or a nutter vampire or worse, I was screwed. I had next to no augments, no abilities. I had pistols and good intentions. At least Reva still had the use of her Hermes. My temporary legs were not up to the task of withstanding the strain of the speed unit at full kick. I was even hesitant to use it without trying to run. My temporary hand and arm, they were in the same box. My body was a bit of a sorry excuse for anything, really. Maybe I should just hand over the case to another hunter. I wasn't cut out for this anymore. But at the same time, there was no guarantee they would take it seriously. On top of that, I felt I owed this to Hercule. I would just have to do my best, and if I failed, well, at least I'd tried. We stepped out into the cool autumn air. This high up, the air felt clean. The fumes of the traffic from lower levels have been being scrubbed by atmospheric filters that draw in the pollution to pump out mostly carbon-neutral clean air. I took a deep breath, letting out a sigh as I felt it in my bones.
Tell me about it.
Reva flexed her neck from side to side and we began to stroll our way back to the apartment. Fia hadn't managed to dig up anything further on Darcy. I didn't really need to know why she was in the witness protection system, but something niggled at the back of my head. A small voice was telling me it was important. That dead girl on the street was Darcy's sister, or I was a fucking goblin. I pulled Reva close and she tilted her head to rest on my shoulder.
What's in your head?
She was looking up at the building that towered as high above us as it dropped away below us, and then some. Her eyes tracking the lights of service drones high up in the canopy of the upmost walkways. Do you get the feeling that whoever shredded those girls was trying to make a point? She didn't take her eyes off the skyline.
What do you mean?
Think about it. Who kills with that kind of ferocity? Not vamps, they'd suck 'em dry. Not lichens, there was no pieces missing. It's too messy. But it's messy for the sake of being, well, overkill.
Maybe they want to get caught. Maybe it's some kind of rush.
I shook my head slowly, unsure. I keep thinking up new theories and then rejecting them. I mean, sure, there are killers out there who do it for the kick.
But you don't believe this is one of those?
For some reason, I can't resolve this as one of them. I can't say why, it's just a feeling.
Maybe they're trying to get someone's attention.
I looked at her, stunned. What?
Like maybe they're trying to send a message to someone, or a group in particular.
That fired a neuron, trying to be noticed, trying to send me a message. I stopped our slow progress and pulled Reva to one side, into the shadow of a heavily graffitied wall, getting out of the way of the foot traffic. I reopened the files, flipping through them, each kill, each girl, the dates of the murders. Fuck, of course. She narrowed her eyes, the corner of her mouth twitching into a smile.
You've got something. I know that look in your eyes.
I don't know if I'm right, but I have a pretty damn good feeling about this.
Is it gonna help us catch our killer?
If I'm right, this is gonna make it really easy, if not a bit unethical. Darcy had not given us her address, so I couldn't just go over there and demand answers. It was very early morning, too. She must have had her comm set to Do Not Disturb. I couldn't raise her. I left her a message to call me and tried my best to put my curiosity to one side. If I was right, I was going to need a good bit of sleep myself before tonight. When she finally did get back to us, she wanted to meet at dinner. I didn't think it was a good idea. I was about to delve into her past, and a past that I strongly suspected she wanted to be left behind. A past that had officially been forgotten. I thought it was best that we have some privacy. I had at least gone to the effort of supplying some beer. I wasn't sure if she needed any liquid courage. Me, on the other hand, the way I was feeling, it was welcome. I would happily substitute my morning iced coffee with beer, and the fact that it was about 2 in the afternoon made that even more socially acceptable. Darcy sat, looking nervous, in one of the 2 lush chairs in our apartment. Reva occupied the other one. I took the couch.
So I'm hoping you've got a lead?
She took a swig of her beer.
That's why you called me, right?
I nodded, trying not to give anything away. After a fashion, we think we might have found a motive. Her grin was ecstatic.
That's great. Right.
That all depends. I need to know if I'm right first. See, if I am, there's a key witness that might be the linchpin to all this.
Whoever it is, I can find him. Once we have their name, I can...
I cut her off. That's not the problem. I strongly suspect that they might not want to come clean about their involvement. My tone was serious, my face stern. She was beginning to suspect something was up. Her next words came out slower, more cautiously.
Well, surely we can convince them, given the circumstances? Let's hope so,
Reva put in. First, let me ask you a question. The last girl who died, the last one in my files, she is the last victim, correct? Darcy looked perplexed for a second, then somber. That pretty much confirmed one suspicion.
Yeah, yes, she was killed a few weeks back.
I nodded. So none since. She shook her head, looking away momentarily to take a sip from the bottle. But all the killings happened only a few days apart. The killer hit the girls and then stopped. That doesn't seem right.
I hadn't really thought about it. You didn't think it was odd at all? Reva asked softly.
She shrugged, still not meeting my eyes. Reva went in for the first big answer.
Darcy, that girl, Gemma, she's your sister, isn't she?
Tears welled up in her eyes as she sat there in silence. It was all the confirmation I needed. It was the hunch that had tipped me into taking the case in the first place. Still, it's nice to know you're right about these things. She gave a barely imperceptible nod.
And her name isn't Gemma, is it?
Another small nod. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say your name isn't really Darcy. She looked up sharply, not aggressively, more startled, like a deer in headlights.
What makes you say that?
You tell me. You know what a cache is, don't you? The temperature in the room just fell about 10 degrees as soon as I said it. Her eyes went hard.
How?
She didn't need the full sentence. Her tone was accusing enough. I happen to have a damn good sifter with a curious mind.
So you went digging in my past? This case isn't about me.
I beg to differ, I said as softly as possible, trying to keep her from flying off the handle. Girls started getting killed randomly until your sister gets hit. But every kill is over the top. Every kill is gruesome. Not in a way that someone would enjoy, but in a way someone's doing their best to get noticed. To get someone's attention. And what do you know? They succeeded. But it wasn't Hercule or me they were trying to reach out to. It was you. Her stare was as hard as a coffin nail now. I matched it with my own, my most world-weary, no-fucks-given stare. I can't catch this freak unless you help me. Reva watched as we matched wills. Darcy was trying her best to stare me down, a duel of indignity and anger against someone who had all the time in the world. She broke first, letting out a long sigh and deflating.
Yes.
She put her beer down and hung her head in her hands, rubbing her temples.
Yes, that was my sister. Yes, I was placed in the WPS.
I smiled a little, trying not to actually look satisfied. Not that she was looking at me anyway. So talk. Why are you in the system? What happened? And very importantly, was Gemma in it too?
No,
she said, still looking down at the floor.
If she was, the hunters would have already taken over this case. Case gets hit, they swarm.
That was a fact. Someone like that dies, even from a heart attack, there's always an investigation, just in case it's foul play.
No, it was just me. She wasn't even meant to be there. Somehow she found out where I'd been moved to. She came here just over a year ago trying to find me.
She looked back up at us, the whites of her eyes now bloodshot, her face looking more exhausted than I felt.
Okay, she said softly. Back to the start. 5 years ago, I was a key witness in a series of mob hits. I'd been a double agent for the state police. The killer was a hitman who was very good at his job, but he liked to enjoy himself a little bit too much. In the end, we were able to pin all the killings on him, mainly thanks to my statements. I'd been tasked with getting close to him.
How close? Reva interjected. She shot her a look.
Too close for comfort.
That must have been very hard for you. She shrugged like it meant nothing.
It was the mission. You do what you have to. But more importantly, we could never make the connections between him and the mob stick. So he copped the whole lot. Every charge was laid at his feet. The investigation fell apart. We were hoping we'd be able to cut a deal with him and he'd hand us the contacts. He never said a word. He was just sent away for life. I got put in the WPS, and Gemma was left behind as I moved into a new life. Safe job inside under a new name. A smile flicked across her face for a moment. Well, sort of.
Reva gave her a questioning look. She caught it out the corner of her eye.
Gemma and I were orphans. Nameless castaways, kids like us. We got code, not names. The Greek alphabet was the preferred method at the particular establishment they took us to. They said it was more humane than a number. It wasn't. Gemma was Gamma Alpha Sigma Epsilon. Me, I was Delta Alpha Sigma Epsilon.
Delta? I looked at her quizzically as my mind pulled it together. I muttered under my breath. Delta Alpha. D-A-S-E. Darcy. She blushed, embarrassed for some reason.
Wow, that's slick, Reva said before draining her bottle. It was stupid and vain,
she retorted, her frustration with herself momentarily directed at Reva. Okay, so somehow this killer finds out you had a sister. Doesn't know who she is exactly, but knows where. So he starts working his way through the candidates, hoping that he'll hit jackpot. Darcy shook her head vigorously.
No, he's locked up in Goulburn Supermax. There's no way it can be him.
I raised an eyebrow at her. Are you sure?
It can't be.
There was desperation there. Desperation of someone who needed what she was saying to be true. There's only one way to find out. What's his name? Cyrus Hawke, better known in the criminal underworld as the Raptor, a half-blood djinn, appeared in Australia 22 years ago from Eastern Europe. He had indeed been sentenced to life, which for a djinn, even one with a diluted bloodline, was a good couple of 100 years. He had disappeared from Goulburn Supermax 3 months ago. I asked the very important question, why wasn't Darcy warned when he escaped? And Rio was doing me the favour of ripping the agent in charge of Darcy's case a new arsehole. Not that it was going to do much good now, apologies and excuses too little too late. They still hadn't figured out how he had escaped. His cell had the highest grade security and tech. He had been under constant surveillance. The running theory was that he had been busted out by some corrupt guards for a job for his old connections. Lot of good that did us. We knew where he was. We knew who he was after. The response from higher up the chain, backup, some kind of help to try and catch a known and extremely dangerous killer? Well, you're a hunter. You deal with it. Gee, thanks. I appreciate the overwhelming confidence in my skills. However, through all this, one thing was easier. We had a face. We knew who we were looking for. Fear's job was just made a lot easier. I rotated the three-dimensional scan of Cyrus Hawke slowly in the overlay on my vision, courtesy of my optic augments. Killers came in all shapes and sizes. I should know. Cyrus was interesting. He looked to be young, early 30s by human standards, but probably about 50 in reality. His skin was pearlescent black, much like the half-djinn Reva had fought in the ring the night that we had reacquainted ourselves. Eyes an extremely dark blue, easy to spot in a crowd. Darcy was out on the balcony, having a moment for all this to sink in.
So when are you going to ask her?
Reva asked as she leant on the fridge for another beer. There's got to be a better way.
To ask her to be bait for an ex-lover/serial killer? I don't think she's going to be jazzed no matter how you slice it.
I'm not okay with this, babe. If anything happens to her, it's 100% on me. After losing Hercule, if I got his handler and friend killed, I wasn't going to be able to live with myself. We need a better plan. She grunted.
Good luck with that.
You know, you could be more help. I shot back.
I'm sorry, baby. I just hit things.
Well, you're in luck. Out of the two of us, you're the only one equipped to go toe-to-toe with a half-blood djinn.
Hang on.
She stepped back and eyed me from across the room.
She's the bait. I'm the muscle. What are you gonna do?
I'm the guy with the plan. A snort of derision.
Some plan.
Hey, I thought you were meant to be encouraging me here. She gave me a sympathetic look that seemed genuine.
Sorry. I do believe in you, babe, but honestly, I think that having her put herself out there is the easiest way to do this. She is the ultimate target, after all.
I sighed. Yeah, what if I can't get between him and her fast enough?
You will. This is what you do. And I'll be right there with you.
I looked away, not able to maintain eye contact as possible futures spun out in my mind's eye. All of them had a dead blonde at my feet. I'm not feeling the confidence on this one, babe. Her response was cut short as Fia came in over my comm. I opened her visuals and put on loudspeaker so Reva could hear her.
Sup, loser?
She was seated on the floor again, in front of her screen array. I was about to respond when a figure leant into view of the camera. A dark figure, dreadlocks, and a leather vest.
What's up, loser?
I was speechless for only a second. What the fuck is he doing in our apartment?
Calm down, he's just dropping off some manga.
Tobias flipped me off from behind her and grinned wide, his perfect white teeth making him look like more of a douchebag version of a Cheshire cat. I gave him a finger in return. Fuck you, Blackwood. Fia rolled her eyes so hard I thought that her retina would detach.
Eat a dick, Whitlock. I'm gonna go drink all your iced coffees.
I sneered. Yeah? Well, I'm gonna go find a first edition of something and piss on it. Fia pushed Tobias to one side, out of view of the camera before we could really get into it.
If you two are quite done. Oh, they have more, Reva called out. But you go ahead.
Fia spun one of the monitors to face the camera. Multiple shots of Myth's interior were displayed. The place was packed in each one, wall to wall with partygoers. But outlined against the crowd in each shot was our man. Once you knew who you were looking for, it all became easier. Bingo, that's our mark. And you've confirmed he spoke to each victim? Fia gave a sort of distracted nod while she brought up some other screenshots.
I even managed to trace him through the streets with a couple of the girls.
That's great. Got a lead on where they went after? If we could track him down to a hideout of some sort, we wouldn't have to use Darcy as bait after all. A frustrated shake of the head.
Sorry, you know what Jinn are like. Give them half a second and they skip about 100 meters away. It's worse than a Hermes. At least I can trace the energy signature on one of those.
Damn it! I saw Fia's face and turned my tone around. You did great, sis. Top marks. We'll just have to stick with plan A. Tobias spoke up from outside of frame.
If plan A is the one of yours that works, it'll be the first time for plan A's all through history.
Reva chuckled. Thanks for your optimism there, mate. He was right, though. I doubted anything would go to plan. Just send me through all the footage you've got, everything you've isolated. I'll take it from here.
Already on it.
As she was hanging up, I overheard Tobias.
So, love, you want noodles or pizza?
Instinctively, I ground my teeth, but that wasn't a fair reaction.
You right there?
Reva asked, returning to sit across from me. What?
You've got that look, the same one you get when you catch another guy checking me out.
He's a dick, I grunted petulantly.
She's allowed to have friends. Given most people's reaction to her, I'd say this is a good thing.
She was right, and I knew it was just friends. Fia was about as interested in men as I was. So at least that was some sort of consolation. I just wish she had better taste in people.
What's your problem with him anyway?
Reva asked, watching Darcy through the glass. It's a long story. Let's just say we are very different people.
Uh-huh. People who are very similar say shit like that.
Sorry, whose side are you on? I asked, faking irritation only a little.
I'm just saying is all.
I dismissed the topic with a wave of my hand. If she's done out there, can you ask her to come in? I let out a world-weary sigh. It's time we had that awkward conversation. I won't go over the talk we had with Darcy. It was long and fueled by emotion. She was understandably scared, and that manifested in anger at first. Then she moved on to be more upfront with a display of fear. I did feel for her. I wasn't going to force her to, but I did outlay the reality of the situation. As much as she didn't like it, it really was the only way to draw this freak out into the light. I still wasn't sold on the plan myself, and I had to fake my confidence to keep her on an even keel. I just had to keep all the parts in order, all the pieces in view. I reminded myself that it wouldn't just be me. I'd have Fia, Reva, Darcy, everyone to back me up. We would make sure that we were ready. No one was going in blind on this one. I was in full control of the situation. We were all walking out of this one alive. Every last one of us. Thank you very much for listening to Cyphers Edge. If you enjoy this podcast, a subscription to the channel would be most appreciated. If you'd like more content from me, you can find me on various social media platforms. I also have a Discord, It's a small community, but we'd love to see you there to talk about the genre and any other topics that relate to the podcast, literature, or sci-fi and cyberpunk. As always, the script and narration were done by JJ Brandis, myself, and the music was done by Cale McLeish. Copyright Cyphers Edge 2026.